All right, welcome in everyone to the Black Aces / Average Albertan podcast. It's been a while since we've been on the YouTube channel side of things. Usually we're streaming on Twitch, but tonight it is fantasy hockey, and I'm going to bring in my guest host right away. It is a pleasure to bring in from Montreal, Quebec, Frank the Tank, whatever you might want to call him, Frank the Magician in terms of fantasy hockey. So welcome all in, everyone. How you doing, Frank?
I'm good. Watching hockey finally. Watched the two games from Europe, but this feels like the real start of the season. So
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting. It's in a way it seems like hockey just ended, but in a way it seems like it's been a long time as well. So before we get started, again, for those of you that are just tuning in, for the last couple of seasons, we've done the Average Albertan podcast. We rebranded to the Black Aces podcast on Twitch. Sometimes things get in the way. We have, usually we had old man Fred and we had Finn, but Finn has had his second child very, very recently. And I invited him to come on tonight, but he was doing the daddy duties. He said, "No, I can't tonight. 7 o'clock is bath time for one of the kids." And old man Fred is traveling off, gallivanting with his wife around the world. So, yeah, it's difficult to get everyone together at the same time during the week. But hopefully, throughout the year, we'll be able to do a few of these podcasts, even if they're just recorded and we throw them up on YouTube. Also, want to send best wishes, and I know Frank would as well, to all of you that are in the southeastern part of the United States, Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas that have been suffering through Hurricane Helene, and now Hurricane Milton is on the way tomorrow night. So if you happen to be watching, or if you have friends and family from those areas of the world, all the best wishes to you and your family and friends, because it can be devastating, losing everything to the whims of the climate. So that being said, tonight's episode is going to focus mainly on fantasy hockey, because if you're a hockey fan, there's a good chance that over the years you have participated in fantasy hockey, whether that's the office hockey pool with friends or family, or whether it's an online hockey league. ESPN hockey pools, Yahoo have been some of the more common ones. And we're going to talk fantasy hockey and analyzing one of the drafts that Frank and I were in. Frank, if you don't know, Frank and I have been in the same hockey pools, a few of them for must be 10 years going on now, Frank.
we calculated it last time. I can't remember.
Yeah. It's
Been a
we can
while.
check probably, but yeah, it's been a while. And Frank is, again, one of the best. We'll go over his record a little bit later on. But before that, Frank, you said you're watching hockey. Hockey has started tonight. Today we have 3 games that are going on. I didn't catch any of the early game. Kind of surprised there was an afternoon game, but
Yeah, ESPN is doing the launch of the season, a triple header. So that's why you have 4, 7, and 10. And Ferraro, Ray Ferraro is actually did the first game, got on a plane, going to Utah to do the 10 p.m. game. So he's doing two games on the same day.
Wow. And yeah, I actually like that when they stagger, like when they have Hockey Day in Canada and they stagger out the series. It's kind of cool to see.
Yeah. And Utah, you can see, it's only 5 months old. They had Gary Bettman, because I watched Seattle after work, so I missed the first period. I came in the second, and the second intermission, they had Gary Bettman, and ESPN was set up in Utah, even though for the early games, in between periods with Messier and Subban. And they actually applauded Bettman, so they don't understand their, the assignment yet. Like even the host said, "Well, you're getting applauses. They haven't learned yet."
Utah is in the matrix, I think. The fans, next thing, they won't understand what a hat trick is, and they won't throw anything on the ice. But that didn't happen today.
I just wanted to say a couple of things.
Yeah.
First one is related to that first hockey game. We had history made at 4 p.m. First female assistant coach in the history of the league. So glass seating broken by Jessica Campbell. So congrats. I missed it because I was working, but apparently she was withholding tears during the national anthem just before the first game started. So the second thing that I learned today during this game is if ever you play a major sport and you can become 14th best at something, that kind of means you had a pretty good career. And Bobrovsky is the goalie everybody likes to crap on because he's up and down, good, bad season, etc. Well, he can reach 400 wins this year, and he would be the 14th NHL goalie to reach that plateau. So you got to give it to the guy, even with his up and down, great career. He's 36 years old. He's nearing the end, and he's missing 14 or 16 games, I think I heard. So he's got to reach the 400 games. So bravo to him, 14th in league history. So.
And welcome in everyone. We've got what do we got? It looks like we have 154 watching right now. So thank you guys for watching. The YouTube crowd tends to be a little quieter than the Twitch crowd was, but if you guys have any questions or want to make any comments or want to shout out your favorite team in the NHL, please do so. Yeah, the Seattle game 3-2 for St. Louis that won all the goals in the second period. Seattle actually took a 2-0 lead. Jordan Kyrou again got a couple goals, and as you mentioned in our private chat, former Edmonton Oiler Philippe Broberg gets a goal for St. Louis, and Dylan Holloway gets the assist. So both of the offer sheets kind of weighed in on that second goal for St. Louis, and then 20 seconds later, Kyrou would get the game winner. And I mean, we haven't talked about, we didn't have an off-season kind of stream, but the Oilers, I mean, they're under cap situation, so they couldn't keep everyone. But I think Broberg and Holloway, I think they're going to have. I don't think St. Louis is going to have a great season, but I think these two guys are going to get the opportunity. What do you think about Broberg and Holloway in St. Louis?
Yeah, they're going to get. Holloway is on the first line. So it's not hard to do better than what he did in Edmonton because he was just awful. And Broberg has 12 games, regular season games ever. So both of them don't have to do much to be better than they were in Edmonton. But Broberg will be in the top four. So we'll see how he produces. They're up to bat by $4.5 million. I think he got the bigger of the two contracts. Holloway doesn't have any pressure at 1 point something, but Broberg does. So it's his chance to deliver. It's now or never. So if this doesn't work out, then he's done for. So
Broberg, 21, almost 20 and a half minutes of ice time, which again, he's starting to come into his own right now. And for St. Louis, in terms of Holloway, I can find him here. He had 16 minutes of ice time, which was
16.
16, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's above average because the way you calculate for forwards and Ds, there's 4 lines divided by 60 minutes. So if everybody plays one after the other, it's 15 minutes each. So the over-under is 15. When you're over, you played more than expected. Defenseman, divide by 3, 20 minutes. So Broberg is a little bit above average. So that's when you know when you're getting cut by your coach, you're in the doghouse.
Yeah.
Or your role player, a fourth liner, they'll do the good ones will do 12-ish minutes. The bad ones will be under 10. So that gives more minutes to everybody else. So 16 is very good, especially if there's no power play time that you have to check also. You have it. I don't know if he was on the power play. Where is he?
No power play minutes. No.
Yeah. So 16 with no power play, that's very good. He's got 41 seconds of shorthanded, so he played a lot 5-on-5. So that's good for him.
And same with Broberg, no power play time. I don't know if there actually were a lot of penalties in the game shown on this page. But yeah, it looks like their fourth line played about 9 minutes each for St. Louis. So more ice time for everyone else. In terms of Seattle, the highest forward was 19 minutes for Stephenson. So he played some big minutes for Seattle. And defensively, Dunn had 22 minutes and Montour 24 minutes of ice time.
The two new signees both had the most ice time.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
The coach does not want to have his GM in his office in the morning.
In terms of the second game, which is ongoing right now, a little bit of a surprise. I'm kind of shocked that, it's 5-2 for Florida. I knew it would be Florida probably winning on home ice, but 5-2. Man, I mean, we did see Swayman sign, so he will once he gets into some conditioning, he'll be back on the ice. But first period had 5 goals, 4 from Florida. Bennett had a couple.
Too shorthanded. That's the key. That's what happens when you're in the first game of the season. Your power play is not up to date. It's like it's preseason. Everybody was playing all over the place. So 2 shorties out of the 5. The first 2 goals were not Korpisalo's fault. It was defensive breakdown. It was bad. It's like there's maybe 1 goal he would have liked to have back, but Florida, man, they're flying, man, and that's what happens. It's the adrenaline of seeing the banner go up. Seeing the Stanley Cup for the last time, they brought it on the ice, and then seeing the banner go up, it's like every time that happens, the team has to, first 10 minutes, Boston had to survive, and they didn't. So,
and sometimes that can work against you, Frank, too. Those big events that, you're so pumped up and you come out flat, even though you are pumped up. But Florida, they came out of the gates, 4 goals in that first period. Korpisalo 5 goals on 25 shots, but like you said, not all his fault. And for Florida, they're getting some scoring from a goal from Reinhart, 2 from Bennett, and their goaltender, Bobrovsky, getting the start. 2 goals on 17 shots against. So, yeah. And then the third game is starting in about a half-hour time, and that's going to be the first game in Utah, and Chicago's heading to Utah. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this Utah coming out of Phoenix. It's good. They're going to get fans there. They've sold a lot of season tickets, and it's going to be good for hockey, I think. What do you think about? Are they going to change their name? Have you heard anything? Like, I haven't heard anything. Next year. Okay.
Yeah. So they're going to remain the hockey club for this year, and then it's one of the 6 names for next year. A couple of people have said, I hope they keep the hockey club. I like it. It's like kind of like soccer, FC football club. It's original. The uniforms are nice, etc. Yeah. Look, Arizona, man, when you don't have the politicians on your side, there's nothing you can do. They were playing in a college. Like Josh Doan seamlessly played in the NHL because he was playing in the same arena that he was playing in college. It was ridiculous, man. It's like, what's next? Playing in a barn, So they were doomed. They pissed off the ownership, multiple owners, post the Winter Olympics on the club, future stars with Cooley and all. So it might work out for them that for Florida for a little while, between Florida and Tampa, man, they're hogging the cup.
Exactly. So let's give it back to Canada. I know Canada's going to go whether we win or lose, but we need it back in Canada. Come on. The Jeremy Swayman situation, I like this little meme. Swayman, if his contract negotiations dragged on a couple more days. Even if I do a bad job, they got to give me that other $2 million. So that, again, great to see.
The other big news of the day after that signing is Shesterkin refusing $11 million for 8 years. Wow. It's like, I think this is his last year with the Rangers, man, because apparently they want 12 plus. They think they can get that. So, Sidney Crosby said it best, because Sidney Crosby signed for 2 more years at 8.7. By the time he's done, he will have played 19 years with a cap hit at 8.7, which is his jersey number. It hasn't changed. There was his rookie years, and then he made 8.7 throughout his career. And everybody asks, like, why did you take a discount? He goes, because I wanted to win, you know? And when you see guys like this, they'd rather fill out their bank accounts than win, which is fine. It's their choice. You know, we're not going to criticize. But whoever signs this guy for 12.5 million, it's going to be rough to win the cup, you know? So we'll see.
Well, and looking at the whole contract, that's, you know, over 150 million that he's made. I mean, really, like, how much more do you need than that? I mean, other than that, it's just flexing and you know, bragging that you're one of the higher paid players. And, you know, if McDavid took 9.7 for the rest of his career, I'd be happy with that, but I don't think that's going to happen. Not after the Draisaitl contract, but again, good on Sid. Like, say what you will about Sidney Crosby, he is loyal. He is loyal to Pittsburgh. He's loyal to the team, loyal to the fans. So good on him. Yeah, Kevin Weeks broke that story about 88 million being offered to Shesterkin, and 11.11 million per year over 8 years for a guy that's played like 2 years in the league. What's going through the mind of these people? Like, he's Russian. It's more than he's going to get in rubles playing in the KHL. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he really proved anything. Yeah, he's a great goalie, but now I kind of feel a little bit more sympathetic to Swayman for turning down reportedly 64 million. Man, Shesterkin, like you said, but who's going to pay it? I mean, if he does leave, is any team going to pay him 12 million?
Oh yeah. There's a list of teams.
Wow.
So there's Chicago, Minnesota, Anaheim. There's so many that would be willing. They made a list. There's like 8 teams that will line up to sign him. Look at Florida. They finally figured it out on how to make it work with the $10 million contract that they had for Bobrovsky. But it took him a long time, man. They were handcuffed for so long. And don't forget, Minnesota, they're getting out of $15 million next year for Parise and Suter. So, you know, there'll be suitors. I have no doubt there'll be suitors. Look at Buffalo goalie situation, you know. So there's so many ways this can go that I'm not worried that somebody's going to write a check. You know, look at Toronto. They have 2 part-time goalies right now. Tavares, 11 million is coming off the books. I can see them saying, all right, all we need is to get a goalie to go with Austin Matthews, and 12.5, no problem. That's 1.5 more than Tavares. Yeah. So we'll find it somewhere. It doesn't matter what our fourth line is. We have Shesterkin.
Yeah. That's the opposite of Sidney Crosby right there in terms of loyalty. In other news, Seattle Kraken announced today they named their captain. That was the last team to not have a captain named yet. And Jordan Eberle, Finn. Jordan Eberle is the captain now of the Seattle Kraken. So good for him. He's paid his dues. He's been in the league a long time and finally gets the captaincy. Philip Broberg, here's the goal that Philip Broberg scored. First in St. Louis. In Dylan Holloway with the second assist on that one.
And Eberle is just a stopgap because they want to give him, he's what, 36, 37 now?
Yeah.
He's a stopgap for Beniers, you know. They're hoping Beniers is going to be ready to step up as a captain, but he had a bad year as a second year last year. Rookie of the year, bad year. They don't want to put the extra pressure on him. So that's why it's like Eberle's perfect stopgap, you know.
Let's see if we got any other news. I think that's about it. Again, Utah, Clayton Keller named the captain of Utah. So another young guy getting the captaincy. Florida winning. Yeah, Jessica Campbell, as you said, first game behind the bench with the Seattle Kraken. So you mentioned that. And the banner goes up in Florida. So Edmonton will host up, I would imagine, the Western Conference Championship tomorrow night as they host the Jets. But yeah, again, good for the Florida fans. All right, Frank, before we get to fantasy hockey, which again was our main kind of focus tonight, it is the beginning of the season, so we can't go by without giving our predictions for each of the divisions. So let's start in the
Here we go again.
yeah, let's start in the unfortunately Finn and old man Fred aren't here to give theirs, but let's start in the Atlantic division. Give me your rundown. Who fits where? Who's finishing first?
Toronto first.
Toronto.
Florida second.
Okay.
Boston third.
Boston third.
Tampa fourth.
Tampa number 4.
Ottawa.
Ottawa.
Detroit. Montreal.
Okay. Let me just switch screens here for a sec. Let me get that off there. Got to bring up the other one. Where did it go? There. Okay, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so one more time. You went Toronto, Florida, Boston, Tampa. Who did you have after Tampa?
Detroit? No, Ottawa.
Oh, Ottawa?
Yeah.
Ottawa.
Oh, Buffalo was on. I couldn't see Buffalo. So, Buffalo. Detroit, Buffalo, Montreal.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm pretty close. I think Toronto, they always play well in the regular season. I think they're going to take it this year.
They've never won the Atlantic, by the way.
Yeah.
It's a misnomer that they're good. They were a wild card last year, so everybody thinks they're good in the regular season because they're so bad in the playoffs. And did you know in their history, Toronto has never won 3 rounds in the playoffs? Ever.
So when they won the Cups, that was 2 rounds or 1 round?
There was 6 teams, so if 4 made the playoffs, it was only 2 rounds. They never won 3 rounds ever.
Wow. That's a great, that's a great.
They got to double their output to win the Stanley Cup. So let's go Oilers. They're on only hope.
Jeez. Okay, Toronto, Florida, Boston, 4th Tampa, and then I'm going to go Detroit, Ottawa. I think exactly the same as you. Is that what you had?
Yeah, nope. I think so.
You had Ottawa and Detroit mixed.
Okay, yeah. That's the only difference.
All right, well, we're in agreement there. How about the Metro? What do you see happening there?
Rangers, Jersey, Islanders, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Capitals, Philly, Columbus.
Okay. I think that's going to be pretty close to what I'm picking too. I think, the Rangers. I'm going to take Carolina second, though. I mean, they were really strong last year. Jersey, I don't know. I still have question marks about that team, even though they beat Buffalo twice, but it's Buffalo. Patrick Waugh, I think, is going to take them to a playoff spot. And then we're going to go, Pittsburgh, Capitals, and Columbus is, I wouldn't be surprised if Columbus is the worst team in the NHL this year.
It's going to be hard to be worse than San Jose and out west. But, and by the way, when Patrick took over with the Islanders, his winning percentage of the team was 608. And second thing, why Carolina didn't put them in the top three is they lost Guentzel, they lost Brady Shea, they lost Pesci. They replaced them with Gustus the Beer or whatever. Oh, yeah, I think that's what his
Shane
name.
Gustin there, yeah.
And then some hack. And then at forward, you see they have Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis, and Nichas. That's it. They have 4 in the top 6. They're missing 2. So their depth is gone. They don't have a second line center because Kakaniemi is complete shit. Jordan Stahl is too old. So they're going to have trouble. I think their window was not exactly open. It was a crack open and it's already shut. They're done, Yeah.
Well, if they're close to a playoff spot, they're willing to make those trades at the deadline like they did with Gensel last year. So
they're going to have to.
Yeah. Let's go on to the Central Division. I think other than maybe the first team, that's maybe the top 2 teams, it's a little tough because.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Dallas first, Avalanche second, Nashville third, Winnipeg, Utah, Minnesota, St. Louis, Chicago. Just put Chicago. Okay. Well, yeah, doing it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
That looks pretty good. No, I want to change my mind. Go back. Put Utah in front of Winnipeg.
Easy. That was going to be my dark horse, Utah. I think they're going to have a great year. I think they're going to have a fantastic year. But yeah, I'm going Dallas, Colorado.
I got them in the playoffs. That's why I moved it. So I agree.
Yeah, this is how things shake out. So it's pretty close. I think the only difference is we've got Winnipeg and Minnesota switched around.
Yeah.
Pretty close. Dallas is. I think they're going to compete with Colorado for the division lead, but ultimately, I think they're going to get there. And Nashville upgraded their team. I think they got Stamkos, of course. Again, he's getting older, but still an upgrade. And
who went there from Carolina? Brady Shea.
yeah.
So
I think they'll be competitive.
And the thing about Dallas, the amazing thing about Dallas is Maverick Bourque is injured, but he made the team. Stankoven. You have all these kids while they're competing for best in their division, best in the league. That is so rare that you draft that well. Stankoven, second round pick. It's like it's rare that you draft that well. And as you're competing for the cup, you have these rookies that are going to dominate, like in terms of rookies. Like Stankoven is going to be in the race for Rookie of the Year. He's not going to get it. But, so that's the amazing thing about Dallas. And that's why I have them in front of the Avalanche because, Nichushkin is only coming back in November. Landeskog, who knows if he's ever going to come back. So, their depth is not like Dallas. Hey, Jamie Benn is playing on the third line.
Dallas is really, in terms of name players, a very underrated team, isn't it? Like a lot of the Dallas players, most people probably don't know those names.
Their weakness is defense because
Heiskanen is probably the only name.
And Harland.
Yeah.
Their right side, they just signed Dunbar, and they went to the garbage heap to sign their 3 right-handed defensemen. They brought back Lindquist that they already had, but the Dumba is garbage, and then this other guy is garbage. So they're going to rely on their forwards and their goalie.
Yeah. Well, let's finish it off with the Pacific before we talk fantasy hockey. So how do you see that shaking out? It could be one of three teams, I think, taking the.
No, me, I'm just thinking about the second. So Oilers first, they added to their team last year. And then it gets complicated, man. There's only three teams making the playoffs from this division, so it's like probably easier starting from the back. So put San Jose last, put Anaheim just in front of them, put Calgary. I forgot about Calgary. Put Calgary in between San Jose and no, put Calgary last.
Last.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's gonna be hell in Calgary. They're gonna be selling at the trade deadline. Yeah. Okay, then what do I have? Put Vancouver behind Vegas. Demko is, they say, 3 to 4 weeks, so that's gonna cost them second place. Seattle, no. Put the Kings in front of the Seattle. All right, I mean Calgary, man. Nah, put Calgary in front of San Jose. They're going to suck, but not that bad. And Anaheim, I think, is going to surprise people with all their rookies. So I think then, yeah, we'll go with that. Final answer.
All right. Well, yeah, Edmonton. Most of the predictors out there have Edmonton as the odds-on favorite to win the cup, and it's not even close. Like a lot of people have Edmonton taking the cup. I'm not so sure they're going to get the cup, but we'll talk our finalists later on. But I do think Edmonton takes the division, although, preseason kind of scared me a little bit because they didn't look very well.
Forget about preseason. It means nothing.
Yeah, I know. Other than injuries, it means nothing. Second, oh man, this is tough. Yeah.
This is rough, man.
That's
why I bought some time not saying Oilers first. I was thinking about 2 and 3.
You're right when you said start at the back. Yeah, that's for sure.
It's easier that way.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with that. So we just had Vegas and Vancouver swapped. So yeah, I think Vancouver is going to do well enough. Vegas just seems to get so many injuries during the regular season.
So the next prediction for me, 5 teams from the Atlantic. So Ottawa makes the playoffs and only 3 teams from the Metro.
Okay.
So Carolina does not make the playoffs. And I have 5 teams in the Central and 3 teams in the Pacific. So that's my bold prediction.
No Kings Oiler matchup for 4 years in a row?
No. And like the Kings, man, they dumped Dubois, but they got Kuemper. And somebody on Twitter said, "Oh, who should I drop to bring this?" I think it was Swayman off injured reserve or whatever. And then some other expert. This was an expert asking, and then another expert said, "Drop Kuemper." I said, I responded, "Or wait, Kuemper is lifting 1 grocery bag away from being on IR himself."
Yeah, that's for sure. And then who's their backup? David Rittich, I think.
Him or Copley, one of the two. Yeah. I think it's Rittich and Copley's in the AHL. So yeah, the Kings. It's gonna look. They'll make it if Byfield becomes. He had 55 points. If he becomes point per game guy, then they'll make it. If not, if Byfield is what Dubois was supposed to be last year, they'll make it. If not,
how long is Doughty out for?
Almost a whole year. He's coming back in March or April.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's going to hurt too. So I might even move. I might go back to mine, and I might even move Seattle above it.
Yeah, but me, it's just Seattle. The goaltending, man.
Yeah,
it's like they have 2 number 2s, one that they're paying $6.5 million. So that's why I think only 3 teams from the Pacific is going to make it. I don't think the Kings are going to make it. I don't think Seattle's going to make it, and the Ducks, Calgary, and I have no chance. That's why my bold prediction is 5-3, 5-3.
Jack, one of our viewers here on YouTube, is saying that
The
one of the
ghost.
best
Yeah.
nicknames in hockey.
I almost said ghost, but then I said maybe people won't know what that ghost means.
They historically do not make rental deadline deals. Oh, that's Carolina. Yeah. Usually they don't. They did it last year and could not resign.
That's why I think they're in trouble.
Yeah. So okay, who's your start of the year? We're not going to go through all the rounds and stuff. Just give me your finalist based on how you see things playing out.
Dallas.
Against themselves or what?
I'm trying to decide who's going to get.
Come on, be gutsy here, Frank.
That's why
go out on a limb.
Do I go on out of? Oh yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Jersey.
Dallas, Jersey in the final. Wow. I thought you might go the same with me. I'm going Dallas Rangers. Dallas Rangers. I don't think Edmonton does it. Unfortunately, I think if they do come across Dallas in the final four, I think Dallas takes them out this year. I do
Dallas
want them to
lost in the conference finals 2 years in a row to Vegas and to Edmonton. That's their youth learning, you know. Yeah. So they're going to be a tough out this year. They're going to be a tough out.
Yeah. I mean, it all rides on Ottinger too, because they don't really have a reliable backup. I think it's Casey DeSmith or something is their backup.
Yes, because their backup from last year, Wedgwood, went to Nashville.
Yeah.
Lankinen went to Vancouver, and DeSmith went from Vancouver to Dallas. So it's like a three-way trade of backups.
So those of you watching on YouTube, who are your finalists? Who do you think is going to make the final? There's going to be a lot of action along the way. There's going to be injuries. There's going to be movement. There's going to be players that who knows what else happens. Trades that always happen. If Edmonton, like Skinner, he's an unknown too. We talk about Ottinger, he's got to stay healthy, but Skinner's got to stay healthy because they can't rely on who's their backup.
Picard, we're gonna see his name in the next when we start fantasy.
yeah, Picard. So Picard. Again, things come up. I mean, Colorado could make another run too. They could make the cup. They've got the talent. They've got the big name players. Toronto, is this the year they break through and they break the curve?
No. They brought back the Killer 4, and the killer is not in a good way. It's killer of hopes.
yeah. Matt Duchene wears out his welcomes quick. His line will see a setback this year. Pavelski retiring. Got to take the Oilers. How is this channel called Life in Alberta and not take the Oilers? Well, let me tell you, we usually have two other co-hosts here, and one of them is a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and one of them is a die-hard Oiler. So if Finn was here, like he usually is, he would have been Oilers all the way, and he would have said the Oilers are going to win in 3. So,
and Jack, I can guarantee you, both me and Glenn hope the Oilers win the cup. We hope. We wished it last year. We fell short, but it's not where we got to give our honest predictions here.
Yeah. We got to look at the whole team. The defense on Edmonton, I know they did improve. They got Skinner up front, but that Edmonton defense, Nurse worries me. The defense worries me. And as a playoff team, it worries me even more because they need that grit, that toughness. Ekholm, man, that trade for Ekholm has been the best trade the Oilers made in the last couple of years. I love that guy. He is such a great addition, a mentor for Bouchard. He's done so well, but he's getting on there in age too. He's like 34 years old, I think. Now.
Oh, I think he's older than that.
Yeah. So his time is running out. So if Edmonton can somehow, with their cap issues, pick up, like last year, I was like, oh, get Roman Josi, get Roman Josi, get Roman. It seems like they have a good trading relationship with Nashville. Please get Roman Josi if Nashville falls out, because that would be the piece. If they could get Josi, book the cup for them. They need that second defenseman that can play big minutes and play tough playoff minutes.
Yeah, but
And
don't
I don't
go
see
with the number one defenseman in the league that's won the Norris. Like, temper. You got to go for supporting cast for Bouchard. So the perfect candidate is Mike Matheson in Montreal. Puck mover, skates like the wind. He can keep up with the fast skaters on the Oilers. So you have to be, his salary is very low, 4 point something. So you got to be realistic. You can't go with.
Okay. What about a Uyghur out of Calgary, or a
He's got
what
way
about
too
a
much term.
Seth Jones out of Chicago? Would they be good enough to push them over the edge?
Well, Seth Jones, you'd have to get him at half his cap because he makes $9 million. He makes too much
Yeah.
for the Oilers. The Oilers have $2.34. They can't even go to the dollar store to go shop.
They got more than Toronto. They got more than the Leafs, who have, I think, a buck.
So Uyghur just signed his huge contract. They can't do Uyghur. Matheson is this year and next. I think that's it. With Hudson coming up, Montreal will probably listen, but you got to be realistic. You're not going to get a Roman Yossi, and Nashville's going to mail it in. And they just signed Stamkos. They just signed Marchessault, and then they're going to tell these guys, well, you're not making the playoffs anymore. We traded Yossi away. Man, it's not going to happen.
What about Cam Fowler out of Anaheim?
Yes, but he's a good all-around D. If you want somebody that supports the offense, no. But yes, it's his last contract year, so he's a good trade line acquisition for sure. For sure. He would be top of list. David Savard, if you want to play actual defense, shot blocker, he would be top of list also because he makes 3 point something million. So, yeah, see, defenseman D-man would be like Savard.
Yeah. And I think that's better for the playoffs anyway. Again, someone that can eat those tough minutes on the back end. Someone like Ekholm.
But Ekholm is more of a two-way. Like Savard is shut down, Yeah. So he's a pure shutdown.
We'll see. We'll see what things go. But Edmonton has lost a few of their prospects. Lavoie.
Oh, you're right. Hey, by the way, he's 34. I just looked at.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. So Ekholm is 34.
Yeah. So Lavoie lost on waivers to Vegas, and of course Broberg and Holloway to St. Louis on contracts.
He's coming back, Lavoie, because he got waived by Vegas today. He's taking.
How does the rule work? If someone picks up someone on waivers, do they go back to the original team, or do they go back on waivers and someone else
go back on waivers?
Okay, so Edmonton would have to claim
the thing is like Patera. Okay, Vancouver waived Patera. Boston picked him up because Swayman wasn't signed. They signed Swayman. They waived Patera. Nobody claims Patera, except Vancouver. So now Vancouver is allowed to send him straight to the AHL without waivers, because that's what they tried to do. So if the Oilers pick up Raphael again, Lavoie, and nobody else does, they'll be able to send him straight to the AHL for the year without using the waivers. So I'm expecting them to claim him again, because it's 24 hours. It's like one day and then the next day. So I don't know what Vegas was thinking. It's just weird what they did. I don't understand it.
Is a claim based on last year's regular season standings? The priority?
At the end of the year, it's like that for 5 weeks. So like Montreal is 5th for 5 weeks in the pecking order.
Okay, so 5 weeks into the new season.
Yes, and then it resets to the current standings.
Gotcha. Well, Florida's up 6-2 now on Boston, so looks like they're going to take that game. And in a short few minutes, we're going to have the Utah Hockey Club taking on Chicago. What do you think? Does Bedard get his first goal of the season tonight?
Oh, yeah.
He does?
Oh, yeah.
We'll see. We will see. Okay. Main reason we wanted to come on tonight is talk a little about fantasy hockey. And Going to talk a little bit about, go through kind of one of the drafts that we were in, and pick Frank's brain a little bit, because this is always the time of the year for people in fantasy hockey. They make rash decisions after the first couple games. One of their stars is not doing well, and I got to drop him or I got to trade him. And Frank, you've been in this for so long that the mistakes that new people playing fantasy commit. So maybe go through some of your top mistakes that people make early in the season.
It starts with the draft. That's what we're going to look at. So not drafting well is the first mistake. Then it's exactly what you just said. You got to give players, especially when they get to new teams, 10 to 20 games to get used to the new team. And that's where, let's just say Jeff Skinner doesn't click with Draisaitl. He has 3 points after 10 games, 7 points, 8 points after 20 games. People will stop dropping him. People are not patient enough. After that point, it's a quarter of the season, Then that's where you start having the twitchy fingers. So in the beginning, you make moves to replace your injured player. We had an injury tonight. It's always going to come, but people are not patient. That's the biggest mistake. And I'm not the most patient guy in fantasy hockey, but because after that 20 game mark, I'm going, So yeah.
Buy low. Yeah, buy low. And the sharks out there, like Frank's a shark. He will pick up on these managers. Although, I've made a lot of trades with Frank in our leagues. We're in 4 leagues together. And as you can see, Jack, I'm a diehard Oiler fan. I got the Oiler jersey on, and you see my team name, based on the Oilers, my avatar with McDavid there. And, Frank is very, very perceptive, and he makes some deals that sometimes you scratch your head, but then they pay off for him down the line. And he's the one that traded me Draisaitl, I think year 2 in Draisaitl's contract. Frank's not afraid to trade young prospects.
I've traded Ovechkin. I've gotten him back. I've traded Crosby. I've traded Malkin. I traded McKinnon. There's nobody. I have no untouchables.
Yeah, exactly.
I traded Ottinger for Bedard with Glenn. And who would trade a 23, 24-year-old superstar goalie? Well, I would.
Yeah, and that's an interesting trade we made last year. I got the first pick in the draft. I took Bedard, and you offered me Ottinger, and I thought, I'm weak on goaltending in that one league. And it's a league where goaltending is king. Goaltending's a lot more important than maybe in other leagues.
And it's a dynasty, so that's the other important point.
Dynasty league where you can keep all your players, for as long as you want. We have a farm team as well where we draft rookies and new drafted players, and we put on our farm team. It's a really, really cool dynasty league that we've been part of. I've been part of for many, many years, that Frank commissions. And you can see here that, this is Frank's Yahoo fantasy hockey record. He's a diamond. He's considered a diamond manager. A rating of 1,074. His win percentage, you don't see a lot of fantasy hockey managers with a win percentage over 60%. And he's got a 73% winning percentage, 1,132 wins compared to 403 losses in head-to-head. 14 times diamond level. He's got 52 trophies. And we look at his trophies here. Man, this is you're going to need a new house to store all these trophies. So 2006 is when Frank started playing Yahoo Fantasy, and he just racked them up. Last year, 4 trophies.
Last year, I only won 1, but I made 4 finals, but I only won 1, lost 3, and I lost 1 by one hit. Another one was within 5 stats of something. It's it was super close, but yeah. Dream is to win 4 out of 4, but the closest I've been was 3 out of 4.
And Frank does not play other sports. He does not play football. He does not play baseball or basketball. He is strictly about fantasy hockey. So he brings the credentials. So when we're talking fantasy hockey, it's not just, a regular average Joe that plays. This guy knows what he's doing. That's why I love talking fantasy hockey. That's why we're doing this show. And, just compared to mine, he's got 21 championships, 21 second place, 10 third. He doesn't like to finish second and third, though. He gets pissed off if he finishes second and third. He wants to win every single year. Mine is a little bit of a roller coaster, and part of it is being a teacher for over 30 years. Sometimes the profession, your work gets in the way. You don't have as much time to dedicate to your leagues. But now I've made it a mission this year to pay a lot more attention to my leagues. And
well, you're retired. I hope so.
Yeah.
You were retired last year, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You got busy. I don't know what you did, man, but you weren't playing fantasy hockey.
I think I'm a good enough manager, but it does take time and it does take dedication. But in terms of my trophies, I got 6 first place, 7 second place, and 4 third place, but I haven't won anything really since 2015. And so I have won some of the leagues that I've been in with Frank, but it's been a while. So I don't want this to be a 10-year losing streak. So I got to get things going here. So Frank, let's go back, and we want to talk about one of the team or one of the leagues you run. And if anyone in chat has any fantasy advice or has questions of Frank, I mean, he's one of the best. You can ask experts on X or experts on social media, but hey, we've got an expert right here, just as good as some of those on social media. Or, Frank has openings sometimes, and, he basically asks for a resume.
This year I had 3 openings total. So
there you go. So
one Frank's of them was an original member of this league from 2006. So he just went MIA. So too bad.
Wow. Which team was that?
Freeze. Mr. Freeze is gone.
Is he? Oh, yeah. Okay. So Frank's a big Montreal Canadiens fan. Maroons, he's a Maroons. He's a guy that, loved watching the Canadiens back in the 70s during their dynasties. And we're going to analyze, we're only going to pick one league, and Frank's going to break down the process of how the picks went in the drafting and the mistakes that were made in the drafting. Now, maybe explain a little bit.
I'm just going to explain this. When I finish a draft, right after I do the draft result, you can go put the draft result. That gives you all the picks for the round, and then you see where you picked, and then you see who came after. And I always look, where did I make a mistake? What did I do wrong, etc. And then if I'm comfortable. So I analyze my picks to improve for the next time, to improve for the next year.
Maybe you can answer Jack's question when you finish there.
I don't do online fantasy draft. Does you do points only league? Yes, they do. Yes, they do rotisserie. Correct. So no positional requirements. I think I've never played rotisserie for Yahoo, but I think you can also put in, like, you pick 20 players, but you take the 15 best. So that accounts for injuries and stuff like that. So if you go explore Yahoo, you can still create a league. You're just going to start at week 2, which is Monday, or week 3. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. So when I analyzed my drafts in all the leagues, I decided to look at this league for 2 of the teams. And then I told Glenn, hey, why don't we do me critiquing Team 10 and Team 11 this draft, what I would have done differently, etc. So you want to show rotisserie here?
Yeah, this is the if you decide to join a league, it's better if you join a custom league rather than just a general league, because a lot of the general leagues, the managers quit. They just want to draft, and they typically don't stay around for a long period of time. So you want to go to the custom leagues at the bottom. There are free ones, there are paid ones. And then you can just kind of go through and take a look at what the commissioner has in terms of the setup. Some are head-to-head, some are head-to-head points, some are rotisserie, some are points only, some are salary cap where you have to spend so much of a cap. So there's a huge variety, and find one that kind of fits your style, and you can click on it to see the exact type of draft that it is, how many players you pick, different positions that you pick, all that kind of stuff. So take some time and kind of click on some of these. So you like the points only, that would be this one here. So you got certain positions you have to fill up, and it talks about how many points you get. This one's pretty straightforward. 10 points for assists, 2 points for shorthanded assists, 10 points for a shutout. That's a pretty boring draft. That's a
Yeah.
pretty boring league, but it might appeal to some people where it's very simple, 3-point categories, and it's based on assists mainly. Let's see if we got another points only here. Points only. Points only. There's another one, NHL rosters only. So this is a more complicated point system. Goals, assists, hits, face-off, loss, negative points, positive points, 27 roster size, so a huge roster. Basically, as it says, you got to fill a roster like a real NHL team with 4 of each of your forwards, 8 defensemen, couple goalies, and then 5 on the bench. So that's too big that's a deep draft. That's a huge 20 teams. That's a 400 and
540.
yeah, 500. That's pretty much every player in the NHL plus. So yeah, there's a lot of different leagues that you can choose from. And again, you just go to Yahoo Sports, you go to fantasy, and then you click on the type of fantasy you want to go. Don't click anything up here though, because those are leagues that usually are not worth your while. You want to go down to the custom leagues at the bottom and sort through here. You can also filter the type of league. If you only want to look at points leagues or rotisserie leagues, you can pick that. You can pick the draft type. Do you want a live draft? Do you want a salary cap draft? And then you can even pick what day you do your draft. So come a long way in Yahoo over the years, but very user friendly. Okay, so back to maybe explain a little bit about this specific league and the criteria that we use from year to year before we get into the actual picks.
Yeah. So this is a 12-team league head-to-head, and there's 12 keepers. So that's 144 players that are kept on a yearly basis. Here you can see 3 centers, 2 left wings, 2 right wings, 3 defensemen, and 2 goalies. So those are your keepers. And then there's 23 roster positions total. So we draft 11 rounds to fill out our roster. So that's the thinking. So rebuilding teams have a different strategy than competing teams, because usually if you're rebuilding, you're working on your roster, and we'll see that with the 2 teams we're going to analyze. So the rest doesn't matter. It's what's important here is 12, 144, 2 goalies. I have 4 leagues, so there's 3 live drafts, Jack, and then the dynasty, because we keep all the players from year to year. It's an offline draft. So technically it's 4, but 3 live ones. There's others that can do up to 8, 10. You do much more. I've seen. How many did you do this year?
I think I have 6. You're allowed 8, I believe. I believe the Yahoo allows you 8 different leagues. So I've got 6. Or let's see.
So that varies. So I have 3 live drafts.
Yeah.
So when you look, 12 teams, 2 goalies, that's 24 goalies. So technically, when you start the draft, the 24 best goalies should be off the board. So that's what it makes it challenging. You have to decide where to put the emphasis on. So 36 centers, 36 defensemen, 24 left wings, 24 right wings, and 24 goalies are off the board when you start the draft.
And the great thing about Frank's leagues is, again, it carries over from year to year. And even if you don't make the A side of the playoffs, you still have something to play for in the consolation round, because the consolation round in Frank's leagues, the better you do in the consolation round, the better pick you're likely to get, because you get more balls in the draft lottery for the following year. So if you win the consolation round, you might get up to 10 balls in that lottery. So it keeps you keeps you invested, even if you're out of the playoffs with your team come April. Plus, we have a championship round, and every league that Frank runs is a little bit different. There's another league where you can only draft goalies from 2 NHL teams. You're not allowed to draft, 4 goalies from 4 different teams. The Dynasty one, again, you have a farm team. Hockey rules, is there anything different about hockey, or is that the most straight up one?
That's the least amount of keepers. There's basically 6 plus a prospect, so that's a draft heavy league. And now a bench spot, so you start almost everybody. So you don't lose that many player games, so you have to be very good at drafting in that league. You mess up the draft, you're done.
And here we are on day 1, and Frank's got a 10-1 lead on his opposition. So give him the cup now. He's ready to go. Okay, Frank, so I'm going to bring up, I guess the best way is to bring up the spreadsheet that you showed me here. Yeah, I will move it around as you want me to. Let me know how you want to go about explaining this.
Yeah. All right. So first off, these are the keepers of Team 10 and Team 11. So I looked at it and I identified 3 areas where these managers should have prioritized in the draft. So as you can see, when you have Calvin Pickard as a keeper goalie who's not even a starter and he's not even a good backup, because a lot of teams have 1A, 1B. So all the 1Bs are better than Pickard because Pickard's a number 2. Skinner's the bar none number 1 goalie in Edmonton. So when you have him as a keeper, that means there's 23 of the best goalies that were kept. So you really have to replace him. So he's in red because that should have been replaced. Then out of the 3Ds, Ekholm, who's not a pure offensive, I could have put Roenick, Hanifin. There's hope that he got the contract, so there's hope for him. So I was nice. I only put Ekholm because it's 34. The guy is rebuilding, shouldn't be a keeper. And then Jeff Skinner should not be a keeper. I could have added more. Lehkonen shouldn't be you're in trouble if he's a keeper. Like Braden Shen is 50-point guy. Lehkonen is a 40-point guy. Teravainen. So I could have put a lot, but I was nice. I just kept 3. And then on the right, here you have Stuart Skinner and Saros, probably the 2 goalies that are going to be top in the top 5 for wins this year, with Ottinger, Sherstikin, and all that. So that's nothing to do there. So they're Saros is under 30, Skinner is mid-20s, so perfect here. Defenseman, I let Nurse slide. I would not have him as a keeper, but he's a number 3. That's fine. But Charlie Coyle, come on, man. So then this manager is like, okay, I need to get a keeper center. And then Tyler Toffoli, all nice and well, but he's in San Jose rebuilding club. He's not a point per, he's over 30. And then Brad Marchand is just his age. He's 36 now, coming out of 3 surgeries. So that's 3 areas where that manager should have drafted to replace his keepers. So what I did is, what?
So just before we go on, so just to clear things up. So again, you have to take players from your last year's roster, and sometimes, the players in the red, sometimes you don't have better options than what you took. So what you're saying is, then when you're drafting for your first 3 rounds or so, you should be targeting your first 3 picks for players that are better than these 3.
Yes, especially when you're rebuilding. Like Team 10 is rebuilding more. It's like you have to sacrifice the current year to set up the following years by having acceptable keepers, So you have to make that decision. Where am I in the compete level? Do I go all in and compete, or do I just tear it down and just concentrate on the draft of getting these replacement keepers? And you'll see it's not the first 3 rounds. These 3 new keepers will have been taken in later rounds also. And my rule was I assigned colors to each team. Red is the draft pick I would not have picked, but then my rule is I can only pick a player in the following round. So I can't go 4 rounds deep. It's really until the next pick. So I'm handcuffed. If all the managers sucked in round 5, I'm stuck with seeing. So that played also a role in where I switched the picks.
Okay.
So having said that, we can go to round 1 and 2. And one thing, so yellow is team 10 and green is team, no, yes, yeah. And green is team 11. You got to know that team 10 was auto drafting for the first 5 rounds. So I kept all his pick in yellow. You can see auto drafting was very nice to him because Konechny is mid-20s, younger guy, so that was a pretty good pick. But you can see Anze Kopitar for a rebuilding team, a 36-year-old center. That was not nice from the computer. So we can see the first pick of Team 11 was Thomas Hertl. Good player, but 30-something. New team on Vegas, etc. Knowing that you need a keeper center for the long term to replace Charlie Coyle, who's a 50-point guy, topping up at 60. So instead of Hertl, who's not a point per guy center either, you can see I would not have drafted Hertl, and I would have drafted Adam Fantilli if you go in green. That is a cornerstone. 19 years old. He's the keeper center that you'll keep for the next 15 years. So that would have been my pick. Cousin, if Fantilli would have been there. Yeah.
So my question then is, are you assuming then that both of these teams are rebuilding or not going to want to, go for the championship this year? Because in this case here, Hertl should get more points than Fantilli. He should have a higher plus minus. He should, contribute.
He's gonna have a higher plus or minus, but he's probably not gonna outpoint Fantilli. Fantilli got 30 some odd points and 50, so he tracked for 50 points. He's probably gonna break 70 points. He's gonna get close. That's gonna be higher than Hertl.
You think even with face-off wins and all these other stat categories, hits,
you can get that later on.
Okay.
Okay. So it's like it's too good to pass up. And I'm team number 3, and you can see I took Michkov, and I'm not a rebuilding team, but my plan was to take Aiden Hill. I came in, I said Celebrini's going to go 1, Michkov's going to go 2, but team 2 was auto drafting. When you auto draft, you're the highest rank. So when Verhaeghe got picked, I went, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Oh my God, I can't pass out Michkov, man. So I took Michkov, knowing that Aiden Hill would not survive until my next pick, which was number 9. But I go, oh my God, my plan, my goalies suck because I didn't get Aiden Hill, because I got stuck with my keepers keeping Logan Thompson. Because Fleury is a mess. That was my choice. Fleury or Logan Thompson. And I was like, ugh. And Logan Thompson is maybe 1B, so I needed a goalie. But I couldn't pass up Michkov. So sometimes you got to go. And Hertl, look at his career. He's hurt all the time. He's never had an 80-point season. So to me, that would not have been my pick. Okay. So round 2, both managers. One gets the pass with Kopitar, and Jordan Binnington, good pickup. So that does not change. So I only changed 3 out of the 11, so it's not that bad. So if we go to round 3, again, 3 and 4, no changes. So you got Rasmus Andersson, auto pick, then Jason Trouba, Jacob Trouba, perfect. He's multi-cat stud. So there you get your hits, your blocks. It's not a keeper. We have 4 starting defensemen, so that's his 4th. Probably a little bit early, but doesn't matter. No problem with that pick. Next pick, Sam Bennett. Again, Yitz Zuccarello is a bad pick. But again, he's 36, 37, but it's auto draft. So Team 10 is still auto drafting. Team 11, good pickup with Sam Bennett. Not a keeper, but a banger. Second line in Florida, so no problem there. He's going to get the little bit of face-offs. He's not the best at face-offs, but he's going to get all the other stats. So see, everything.
All right. So these 2 managers did well in the first 4 rounds, other than maybe that hurdle pick, which.
Correct. See, that's why it's not in the first 3 rounds that you necessarily have to replace Glenn. So you just assume that it's just round 1, a little adjustment. Round 5 now, Riley Smith. Knowing I need a replacement right winger, Riley Smith. Varlamov is the last of the auto picks, so not bad because he's a backup. Whoops, I don't know what you did there. So. But that's, again, the last of the auto picks. You can see as soon as I was able to, he got a red Team 10. So going back to Riley Smith, need a right wing keeper and all that. So 3 picks later, Dylan Guenther with his fresh contract at $7 million a year. He's going to get all the ice time he can handle to justify that contract. He did very well. He's going to break out. He's a future 40-goal scorer. So that would have been a little adjustment I would have made instead of Riley Smith, who's 40-point guy, 50 maybe. I don't care if he plays with Zibanejad or whatever. Like Kako played with Zibanejad and never produced. Like nobody produced. Wheeler didn't produce. So I don't expect big things with Riley Smith. 5th round, way too early for Riley Smith. He should be a late round gamble. Yeah. And then Guenther is to me would have been a no-brainer right here.
Yeah, that's that it's so obvious now when you show that absolutely. And the manager that drafted Guenther, he may not keep him for next year, so he might be available again depending on his other right wingers. But for this specific team number 11, that's the guy they should have targeted as a possible keeper. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, instead of whoever they have.
Toffoli. Yeah, instead of Toffoli.
Yeah, Toffoli. Yeah, that to me is not even close. So now, Team 10, finally, I can do something. So Korpisalo, he shows up at the draft. He's got Varlamov, and he takes a backup. It's like, you already have a backup. You want to corner the market? You keeper Picard backup, Varlamov auto-drafted, and then you take the backup. So
to be fair, though, this was before Swayman signed, and Boston's, a really good defensive team.
Temporary.
Typically. Yeah.
Even it's like you have him until December 1st. You need a keeper goalie. He's going to become a backup at one point. So bad pick, especially in round 6. But if you go to the next round.
What about Eklund? Eklund was the right pick then that for Team 11?
Yes, young guy, left wing. Yes, that's why it stays in green. So great pick for team number 11. So let's go through
he could replace the Brad Marchand or the Toffoli. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's go see who I would have replaced Korpisalo with.
Korpisalo.
Okay, so if you look at round 7, 4 picks later, a Noonan comes out. And then Wallstedt comes out 1 pick right after. A Noonan outplayed Georgiev in Colorado. If he does it again, he might become the starter as soon as next year. And Wallstedt signed a new contract. We didn't know that back then, but Fleury's retiring this year. It's his last season. So he's going to be, at worst, starting with Gustafsson, but he outplayed everybody in a short time. So to me, that's why I put both of them. One of these two would have been better than Korpisalo and would have set up Team 10 to at least have a young gun as a future starter. Not a starter today, but Which would you rather have, a 34, 35-year-old Varlamov versus early 20s Anunin and a Wallstead? So that would have been a little switch I would have done.
Do you remember who the other keeper goalie was for Team 10?
Hold on, I have it here. You don't have to move. Just ask me questions. I have it here. Darcy Kuemper, which is,
Yeah.
not the best either because he's injured all the time. So his two goalies were not very good. So now that we're in round 7 now, yeah. Jeremy Lauzon for Team 10 and Zadorov. Same type of players, bangers. It's too early. Bangers you keep to the end. They're role players. They don't give any offense, either of them. Zadorov a little bit more, but too early. So I kept defenseman because for Team 11, he already has his 4, but he wanted a 5th. But look who came out right after. So for Team 10, Ghost. Number 1 power play in Carolina. A newly signed contract. Burns is 39 years old, so he's got no more competition. So that's a number 1 power play quarterback that was still available to Team 10. And remember, his defenseman needed at least 1, maybe 2 replacements. So here's the first one. And then for Team 11, Keandre Miller, down year last year, multi-cat stud. He gets hits, he gets blocks, he shoots, and he had over 40 points 2 years ago, down year. Everybody forgot about him. That would have been my pick over Zadorov because more upside for Keandre Miller. So,
okay. I don't. Do you think there's that huge of a difference between Zadorov and Miller? Because Zadorov is getting the hits, he's getting the blocks, he's getting the penalty minutes. The offense isn't there.
Yeah, exactly. It's too early to not pick somebody that can put up the points. Zadorov was not drafted in other leagues. He's not a sought after. He's like somebody that you rotate in and out of you waiver pickup, your free agent pickup when you need hits 1 week. You don't keep him all year round, whereas Keandre Miller will give you hits, will give you block shots. He's close to 200 in each. I think it's 150, 160, but he gives you the offense. So to me, it was just too early. It's not that they're a bad pick. Lauzon in the 11th round, perfect pick because you get close to 400 hits. Yeah. But not when you have all these. Tyler Chabot. Thomas Chabot is still on the board. Tyler Bertuzzi, who's going to play with Bedard, is still on the board. You look at everybody that went. Jake Neighbors, it's like, it's too early. It's just too early. And I just went D for D. I didn't go, you should have taken Bertuzzi, blah, blah, blah. It's D for D. That's what I handcuff myself with. And those two defensemen are better in the 7th round than Lauzon and Zadorov. But later on, there could have been good Zadorov and Lauzon. It's just some guys are for end of the draft, needs or gambles. That's what you do at the end of the draft, not in the middle of the draft. So
I think, in some leagues like ours where we have, hits and blocks and face-offs, and the problem is, I know when I'm drafting a lot of times is, and you've been through this many times, you get a run on a certain type of player, a certain build of player. Like people leave goalies maybe for a long time, and then all of a sudden there's a run on goalies and you get left out because you weren't part of that run. And same with, these physical players like your Gudis and your Zadorov and your penalty minute block shot
but
block.
Look, there was no run before. No, you didn't create any runs. If you went back to back, the next pick is Bertuzzi. Chabot usually doesn't hit for nothing. Ghost doesn't hit for nothing, and then finally Keandre, and then again Josh Manson created again by Team 10. Nobody went on a run because nobody picks these guys before the last round. That's when you get around. So it's just not a bad player, bad pick. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know?
I think
So
too,
that's
you
why
got to be careful if you're a drafter and you're using Yahoo as your draft site. You can click and you can rank players. If you click on, blocks, it'll put them in order of blocks from last year. And sometimes when you click those, Zadorov will come to the very top as the most block shots last year, the most penalty minutes last year. And so sometimes you get in the habit of, oh, he's the best guy he's got the most PIMs and he's got the most blocks. He's at the top of both. I better take him now because he's a stat stud. And these two, if I leave him too long, someone else is going to grab him. So I think that's the mentality of some of these drafters, why these guys might go a little earlier. Okay.
Yeah, that's where you make mistakes. And that's why some people make mistakes, others don't. And that's what makes success versus failure. Sometimes you pick the right player in the wrong round. And that's why I say, and Michael Kamish, we argue all the time. I go, you took that guy too early, but he's a good player. Yes, but you took him too early. You could have had somebody similar or him 4 rounds later. But it doesn't sink in. He goes, but he's a good player, but he's a good player. And it's like, that's not the point,
Okay,
and if you
moving
look
on, Mangiapane, you think is an okay pick for that round?
Yes, because we're getting into the last 4 rounds. He's in the first line with Ovechkin and Strome, so that's fine. Josh Manson, again, no, just no. He's getting that's two players that will barely get 10 points in a row. So here I went with the upside of Borim Birim in Buffalo. Instead, he's young, so if it clicks, another potential keeper defenseman to replace a second one on his list that were iffy. And then again in round 9, Pospisil, another banger. It's like 3 bangers in a row. So this team wanted to win hits every week and lose everything else. No PowerPoint points, no goals, no assists, no nothing, no shots on goal, just hits. Win hits by 100 every week. And so again, no. Look at Zegras was available. You're young, you're rebuilding. He's got old people. It's like, how do you pass up Zegras, man? It's like, and this is where when you don't pre-rank, you get lost in, like you said, in the ranking in the Yahoo ranks. And Zegras was not highly ranked in Yahoo because he got hurt last year. When a guy get hurt, Yahoo goes with total points. So a guy can be a point per game, but with 20 points in 20 games, he's not going to be ranked unless you change to average ranking. But in the draft board, you can't do that. So it's Yahoo ranks, your rank, and that's it. So that's why you have to pre-rank. So to me, Zegras would have been a no-brainer for that team. Round 10, Goulet, good all-around pick. He does a little bit of everything well. You know him well. You have him in the dynasty. No problem here. Urson, there you go, a gamble. Perfect pick. We're in the last 2 rounds now. Urson, high upside if Philadelphia plays better, etc. So I have no problem with Urson. And then the last pick, I couldn't have a replacement. So they're both stayed there. Again, Trent Frederick, another hitter. I think Team 10 got stuck in the hits. Top hitters, he just picked them off one after the other. OPL would not have been my pick because that, I think, is the 6th defenseman. So 2 bench spots for defensemen. I would have picked somebody else out of nowhere. I don't know who was available at that point. So having said, but that's okay. I have no replacement. I'm not going to go see who was a free agent after. So having also said that, if you look, we go back to the keepers, what is in red and what is a choice. Well, you don't have to go back. It's there. I copy-pasted it, Lynn. So team 10, see? Calvin Pickard, which was his keeper. He would have now had either a Noonan or Wallstead, one or the other. And then instead of Matthias Ekholm, he would have a choice of Borim Birim or Ghost. If Borim Birim explodes, then he can replace Ronek, who had his career year last year, basically. And then instead of Jeff Skinner, he's got Trevor Zegras as a keeper. To me, those are upgrades. Younger, very young, like Noonan and Wallstead are 25 or under. Birim is under 25. Shane is a little bit older, but he's at least number one power play quarterback for a few years. And Zegras is under 25. I think he's 23. So that would have been the end result with these little changes. And
okay,
then
before we get to Team 11, let me just ask you for Team 10. So you picked out Skinner, Ekholm, and Picard. Picard, I can obviously see why he shouldn't be a keeper. He needs an upgrade. Ekholm, I can see too, being 34. But a guy like Jeff Skinner, like you got Matt Duchene, he's old too. That might be the only other one. Like, why Skinner over Matt Duchene?
Matt Duchene is more regular. I could have put Matt Duchene in red. I could have put Braden Shen in red. I could have put Lehkonen in red. Like, that would have been too much because being stuck with only the picks of the next 12 rounds. Hey, first of all, with auto picking for 5 rounds, I only have 6 swaps I could have done with Team 10 because he auto picked. So,
okay. All right. So for your keepers, what are you looking for the most in a keeper? Is it youth?
When you're rebuilding, youth and upside.
Youth and upside.
Youth without upside.
The team they play for doesn't matter. Like Bowen Byram on Buffalo, the fact that Buffalo's not, a great team, that doesn't matter.
No, because Biram was in Colorado. He changed. So people change team. Ghost was in Detroit last year. So players change teams. Look at Cutter Gauthier. He never played with his drafted team. So he's going to be in Anaheim. And like Zegras might not even be in Anaheim. There's rumors he was going to get traded last year, etc. So teams change, and especially when you're 22, 23, your team might suck now, but in 5 years you might be a powerhouse.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then Team 11.
You can't look at that. So Team 11, we had identified Charlie Coyle as a center to replace Adam Fantilli.
That was a big miss. Big miss there, yeah.
Instead of Toffoli, Dylan Guenter, and then Brad Marchand, I put William Eklund, but that's not a guarantee. Like, William has to break out. He's going to play with Celebrini, so who knows? But that's a maybe. But like the age, you're going down more than a decade. Like Marchand's at 36 or 37 now. So if he's a keeper again, at one point, man, his legs are going to fall off. His arms are going to fall off. So that's just potential keepers to replace. If they bomb, then you don't replace them. But that would have been the strategy. And as you saw, some of these were replaced mid-rounds. Like Zegras, I think, was picked in round 8 or 9. So it's not something where, first 3 rounds I have to identify. No, it's just you got to keep that in mind and balance a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's end off by kind of going through, and I think this is the right league here. Is this the World League here? It is, yeah. So I was Team 11. Everyone on YouTube land right there. I was Team 11 that Frank was talking about. So hence I was, trying to defend or question reasoning why he chose the players that he did. So all those players you see on my team here. So picked up Binnington, Urson as 2 of my other goalies, which I think Urson, definitely a gamble, but Binnington should be at least the starter for this year, maybe next year. Or what's his name? Hofer?
Yeah, Hofer.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're at the point where the season starts. The draft is done. For a newer manager, a newer player, once they have their team together, one thing that they're always doing is looking at transaction trends and pickups and drops. Where do you suggest? How do you suggest people go through the process of adding and dropping players, where do they look? Do they go to players? Do they go to the research? Like, where would you recommend
Play,
they go?
I always go to players. Then I look at last month. Then I look at 14 days. Then I look at 7 days. Then I look at averages. I go through all that for every player. I don't want a guy on a hot streak that makes his monthlies look good because he only had a good 7 days. So I look at all of that. Yeah. So
Okay.
you have to see the real trends behind what you're seeing on the screen. Sometimes a guy, as an example, I have a player who was ranked 226th. And if you look at his average ranking, he's in the 400s. So that's why I always do averages. And then averages, I don't do averages for 7 days, but I do averages for the year and I do averages for the month to see what's happening, because a lot of players are first half, second half. And by the way, after Team 10 drafted, he got rid of Zuccarello. He got rid of the two old farts. So Kopitar, he actually traded to me for Middlestad, and then I gave him a freebie. I said, pick up Benson on Zach Benson on waivers. He's very young. He's 19 years old. So I said, pick him up. And then he also picked up, I think, JJ Peterka. So a bunch of youth, I think, Peterka, if I remember correctly. I think he took my advice, but he still doesn't have any goalies.
Yeah, they're tough to get once the season starts. They're really
correct. So he's gonna have to make trades. He can't end the year with Picard again as his keeper goalie. So he's gonna have to do something with that. Cole Perfetti, sorry, that's who he picked up. So good left winger, young, Winnipeg. So, but he dropped Kalen Gooley, which was a pretty good defenseman pick. I would have dropped Josh Manson, but I think the person who's Team 10, he likes the hitters, man.
Yeah.
He might be frustrated. He wants his fantasy team to hit the opposition into oblivion.
And we talked about earlier about panicking and being impressed early in the season by some players and dropping a better player just to pick him up. And I think one of those examples is this Paul Cotter. Paul Cotter, 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points in his first 2 games. The rookie manager out there is going to see this and go, oh boy, I better pick him up now. He's got shots on goal, blocks, face off. Like, I got to grab him.
He's a hitter. In Vegas 2 years ago, everybody picked him up. He went on this hot streak. I think he had 6 goals in 8 games, and everybody picked him up because he was young. He's not old. These are the types of players I ignore. It's like the hot streak. It's like a stock. You don't buy after it's doubled. It might triple, but most likely it will not. So yeah. So same thing with Nason. It's like you have to be extra careful in looking at short term. Like Kovacevic is playing top 4. He's going to be a 5th or 6th when everybody comes back healthy. When Hughes comes back, So yeah.
Okay, so when we look at the preseason ranking, is there anyone on the free agent list that you got a pretty stacked team, so you're not worried really about picking these up? But like we saw with Team 11, they were short in a lot of positions. Is there anyone currently on the market here that you think is a sleeper that should be on a roster? What do you see?
To go to your point, go click on Joshua, because you just argued that, I did well in the 7th round taking a banger. Click on Joshua. You can click on
Dakota?
either the name or the little square. Yeah, Joshua. Okay, go on season stats. Go down. Okay, last year, 18 goals, 14 assists, 244 hits, 60 pins. Free agent. No, gotta use my 7th rounder on that banger. I gotta.
Good point. Dave.
18 goals in 63 games. 63 games. 19 more games, he's a 20-goal scorer. With 20 more games at 4 hits a game, he's at 300 hits. But no, gotta use that 7th and 8th rounder on these bangers. That's what I mean.
That makes sense. Because if we look at the guy I did take, Zadorov, let's see what his stats are.
Not even a 200.
Yeah.
Blocks, not even 100.
Got the penalty minutes. That's about it.
Wow. 20 points. So that's what I mean about picking certain types of players too early. Dakota is a free agent. I added him in my Dynasty League, and I added him in another league. This one, I had a very good draft. I have 1 or 2 iffies, but I have no room for him. My goalies are iffy, so I added John Gibson because I'm desperate. If Logan Thompson does not win the starter's job, I'm screwed. So I'm gonna have to make a trade also, like Team 10. But yeah, so this is proof in the pudding, and he's 3 to 4 weeks away. And he started skating, so he had cancer. So pre-ranking, you have to be careful. That's Yahoo's pre-ranking, and they're funky. And they put all the bangers on top. And that's why if you don't pre-rank your players, if you use their Yahoo rankings, you're going to take these guys that are bangers. And there's an overweight in hits and penalty minutes in Yahoo. So I use my own ranking. And we draft 11 rounds, 12 players per round. I have 132 players in my rankings, in my pre-rankings. In the other league, I had 256. In every league, I rank to have everyone picked, and I never go through my list. The closest I've come is in the 6 defenseman league. I was down to 3 defensemen from my list. So I almost ran out at the end. But I always do that.
Talk about bangers. Orlov is another guy that's still out there that could have been had late round too. So yeah, point well taken that there are plenty of bangers to go around later on that they don't have to be scooped up. If he was a high scoring defenseman and a banger, then maybe you got to take him earlier. But chances are, if he was a high scorer, he would have been protected by someone. So
correct. So that's
anyone else here, like Richard Raquel, like we talked about Orlov, Yanni Gourde, anyone else, David Perron, that
No, I would go with the youth. McGroarty, I would wait to see if he goes beyond his 9 games in Pittsburgh for a rebuilding team. That's a no-brainer. Same thing with Maverick Bork, 3rd-line center, playing with Ben and Stankoven. He played with Stankoven in the AHL, so for a rebuilding team, that's a no-brainer. Josh Doan he's in the 4th line in the 2nd power play, but Tommy Novak, there's a bunch of youth, and then for good teams, I don't have much on my. I got Alex Killorn for a rebound. I'm waiting to see if he's going to rebound in Anaheim. He had a terrible year.
Dawson Mercer's a good young guy, isn't he?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So he's another good one for a rebuilding team. But like Alex Killorn 2 years ago had 60 points. He had a down year, his first year in Anaheim, so he might rebound. Taylor Hall, I'm watching him. I don't have any confidence in him. He's already -1 this year. So that means Utah scored. I don't know if they have the first goal of the game, but I just see Taylor Hall -1 with zeros all over. Sean Couturier, another one. He wasn't hurt last year. I thought he was hurt with the low amount of points he had, but he's a veteran. He's going to play with Michkov and Tippett. So, and he's on the second power play, so he might rebound. So I'm checking him. There's not a lot in terms of quality on the free agent list. A lot of youth. So you have Lev Shunov, I would wait. We only have 20 moves, so you have to be careful. You don't start adding and burn all your moves. But Lev Shunov is going back to the AHL when he's going to be healthy, but he's going to come back eventually. And if he comes back and he plays well, that's when you add him. You don't even hesitate if you need a keeper D. So team 10, I would add Lev Shunov in a heartbeat. Team 11, where's the 3 Ds here? Darnell Nurse, Quinn Hughes. No, like Quinn Hughes and Noah Dobson are untouchable. Nurse, probably, I don't like to have bangers as a keeper D. So, maybe, So.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to be it, Frank. We're gonna wrap it up there. We're on almost 2 hours here. Just update you on the scores. Panthers did win, but Boston did make it a game in the third. They're 6-4 for the Florida Panthers. Kraken lose at home to the
ruined my Bobrovsky stats, man. My Bobrovsky fantasy stats just went down to 2s because of Boston.
That's right. And Utah scores their first 2 goals in
Who's the first goal in history? Who's the first goal in history? Guenther. Look, that would have been your guy. But no. I prefer Riley Smith. And Barrett Hayton. Yeah. Wow. He was hurt last year. So he's on the first line with those 2 guys, Keller and Schmaltz. He might be in for a big rebound. So I don't know if he was a free agent in our league there, but I know he's a free agent somewhere. He just got picked up in the dynasty. But my dynasty, I have 3 guys I got to bring off injured reserve, so I can't take these guys. So the lesson is sometimes you pick the right player in the wrong spot, and you have to be careful because you don't win the league in the first rounds. You lose it mid-rounds all the way to the end by taking people too early. And
here is the first goal in Utah Hockey Club history. Boom. What a shot. What a shot.
The guy who just signed the big contract. That's apropos, It's like, it's poetic justice. And he's got the shot, man. Oh, he's going to score 40 goals at one point in his career.
I'm not gonna live that one down. Go Riley Smith. That's all I have to say.
The race this year is Riley Smith gonna get more points than Guenther's gonna score goals.
Yeah. Here's the second goal here. Clayton Keller's first goal. He's passing. Oh, gotta see that one again.
What the hell happened? Did he fake the shot and pass? Okay. Oh, he fanned on it. Yeah. It wasn't a pass. He fanned on it. Fanned on it. And so the goalie.
All right. Yeah, there you go. And I think our internet's going a little bit down. Yeah. Okay. Well, Frank, that's going to be it for us today because the internet's, I think, because of the video is a little bit choppy too. So good time for us to leave. Again, everyone in YouTube land, thank you guys for watching. Still over 200 of you viewing in here. Hope you learned a little bit with fantasy hockey. I know I did. I will not make that mistake twice next year.
The key is to learn, and like I say, every draft, I've been doing this forever. I do the exact same exercise. Who did I pick? Who was picked in the next 11 picks? What should I have done differently? And the other league hockey rules, I made a mistake. I made a mistake with goalies, and I made a mistake with center. I took McTavish from Anaheim when Cutter Gauthier was still available, and we ran out of left wings in that league, and everybody was scrambling because there's 14 teams. And I said, man, that was my two mistakes. So you always go and learn from your mistakes.
Well, did you accept that trade I sent you today?
Yes, I did.
Hey, all right. Okay.
I wrote. I have another winger from the same team, but at least the position are different because I had two guys with the exact same positions, and I went, oh my god. So then you sent me LA. I already had LA, but at least the guy you sent me is left wing, right wing, and the other ones were C.
Frank has taught me is don't have too many players from the same team. You got to avoid that and put you in too much of a jam.
You can have duos, because that when they're hot, it's good, but you can't be too concentrated. And like defensemen, I'm stuck. And it's Carlson's fault, Carlson gets traded to San Jose. I have Brent Burns. I got 2 defensemen out of 6 starters in the same team. Then Burns gets traded away, so I'm happy. 102 points from Carlson. He goes to Pittsburgh. Who do I have at Pittsburgh? Letang. What damn I have? And it's Carlson's the culprit twice. And I can't trade Letang. I just see he's worth nothing. Because he's 5. And then Carlson is that's not worth market value. So I'm always stuck, and it's like that's why I traded Matheson away because I have Hudson coming up. So I got Ehlers for Matheson, and that's the only reason.
All right, Frank, thanks once again, and thanks again everyone for watching. This has been the Black Aces NHL podcast, the first one for the 2024 season. There are Frank's picks. Here are my picks. We will see who does better at the end of the year. Thanks again, Frank.
All right, later.